All right, ready?
Yeah.
All right, the meeting will come to order. This is the Biennial Organizational Meeting of the Riverside School District 96 Board of Education. It is Tuesday, April 30th at 7 p.m. Marjorie, please call the roll.
Mr. Barsati?
Here.
Mr. Hunt?
Here.
Ms. Kleiber?
Here.
Mr. Marhol?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Regan?
Present.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margie. This time, will people please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So at this point, is there any public comment? If there's no public comment, then we have only one item of new business, which is the confirmation of the consolidated election canvass results. So we are pleased at this point to be welcoming back two current board members, Linda Murphy and Sherry Kleiber, and one new board member, Wesley Meerhold. And we'll be losing one of our members, Rich Reagan. But so that is the certification of the results. So do we have to vote on this? Is it a voting matter, or we just say it's a? No, just say it. Okay. There is no old business. Then the next item is the appointment of a president pro temp who will preside until the election of a president. I actually think this is an unnecessary step because we did it last time. I think our policy says the president will administer the oath, but we can certainly do it if we want to. So what if people want to do it?
Let's just nominate you.
Okay.
I nominate Jeff as our president pro tem.
All right, then the main item of business then is the oath of office, the seating of the elected board members. So if we want to step over to the here.
Oh, yeah.
I think Margie's got.
Oh, good. You have a copy?
Copies for everyone.
Thanks.
This is where you step in.
How much
You guys want to maybe face the camera?
Because everybody's going to watch this.
All right, so this is the board member oath of conduct. So I state your name.
I, Linda Murphy.
Hi, Wesley Meerhead.
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Riverside School District 96.
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Riverside School District 96.
In accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois, to the best of my ability.
In accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois, to the best of my ability.
I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets.
I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets.
I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting.
I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can be made by a majority vote at a public board meeting.
And finally, I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Oh, no.
Have a seat.
Oh, is it already ready? It looks already.
Yeah,
Already ready.
steam
I was
coffee.
gonna say, Rich, you don't get to leave, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
So the first, now we have the organizational business, which is the election of officers. We have 3 officers, the president for two terms. So the first officers for president. Is there a nomination for president?
I'd like to nominate Dan Hunt as president, for president.
Are there any other nominations for president? If not, Marjorie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie.
I am out.
Musical chair.
You can still stay on as president.
I like this seat better, actually.
Yeah, that was very
All right.
Yeah.
Get a bonus bottle of water.
All right. Welcome, Dan.
Whoops. I don't have an agenda, do I?
Jeff took it.
All right.
Oh, here's one.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So next item is the election of vice president for a 2-year term.
I'd like to nominate or ask for Linda Murphy to continue on as vice president.
Do we have a second, or do we need a second?
Necessary for nominations.
Okay. I'm sorry about
Are
that.
there any other nominations?
Are there any other nominations? All right. Please call the roll.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next we have the election for secretary for a 2-year term. Do we have a nomination?
Do we?
If he's interested, I would nominate Wesley.
How's your public speaking voice for reading?
Sure, why not? Nobody else is going to do it.
Margie, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next item is the appointment of committee chairs. The first committee is for the Education Committee. Do we need a nomination, or do we have a proposal for a committee chairperson?
Would suggest Sherry Kleiber in that role.
Sherry, are you amenable to that? Do we need to vote for this?
I don't think so, no.
No? Okay.
If there's consensus, I think that's sort of
Do we have a consensus from the board?
Yes.
All right, Sherry, thanks again for re-upping. Next, we have the Finance Committee chairperson. We have a nominee or someone for the Finance Committee chairperson.
I think our previous president would like to do it.
All right, do we
I
have?
would suggest him.
That was a very good suggestion. Do we have a consensus of the board? Is it affirmative? Yes. Okay. The next is the Policy Committee.
I would suggest Dave Barsadi if he's interested.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other, or does we have a consensus of the board?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Then the next is the Facilities Committee. This is an item for board discussion. So I believe previously the Facilities Committee was a part of the Finance Committee.
Right, so there's,
yeah.
you want to go ahead, Jeff?
Well, I was going to say that in the past, it was the facilities and finance were one committee. Rich did both of them, did a very good job. I think that historically there's been less, like when we joined the board 4 years ago, there was less facilities work, and that was sort of manageable. And I think it was also somewhat manageable for Rich because he had experience in both facilities and finance in his day job. But I'm thinking now with the facilities project sort of becoming increasingly important, we might want to consider having separate committees for facilities and finance. And what that really means, since we have a committee of the whole structure, everyone is on every committee. All that really means is we have a chair for that committee who will help set the agenda and, work with Martha and, whatever Jim, whatever counterparts to set the agenda and that sort of thing. So really it's not changing much other than a separate person would handle the facility side of things rather than both finance and facilities.
And it'd be not necessarily a separate person, but the Facilities Advisory Committee stays as a committee that would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Finance Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Facilities Advisory Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Finance Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Facilities Advisory Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Finance Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Facilities Advisory Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Finance Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Facilities Advisory Committee would have 2 board members sitting on it as really a superintendent's committee. And then the Finance Committee would have 2 board members sitting And then the facility advisory, then I would essentially report to facilities committee. So, I think the question for board discussion is, do you want to have both roles? It's really an open question.
I think it makes sense because otherwise it would default back to finance and facilities, so that same person, me, would be doing both, and I would think it'd be better to have someone else, because I think it's going to be a significant amount of work in addition to the finance for someone to do. So I would suggest that maybe someone else take that sort of split there. And then, 4 years from now, if facilities is much less important, we can recombine that. But just think where we're at right now, I think it does make some sense to split it. But, I don't think it's the end of the world either way. I mean,
No, finance has a lot going already. I think to have that person do both would be too much. So I agree with the second facilities person. Yeah.
Would you be amenable then, Martha, to have that committee head on your,
Yeah, I think that's what would make most sense.
Yeah,
right?
I think it would have to be, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, I think we also start to involve 3 board members in
Yeah.
oh, that's true.
discussions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Should we-
Well, I would suggest Joel Margould as the chair of that committee.
I agree.
Great. Definitely. I think we're having a pool at the new addition, but other work.
There's one
Yeah,
underneath.
yeah.
What am I thinking? Yes, of course. Joel, how are you at digging out pools in the basement? All right, great. So we have a consensus of the board? All right, very good. And then last item, or last bullet here for the appointment of committee chairs, we have a personnel committee for board discussion.
So I think it's the same idea there, is that, we talked about having, some questions came about, administrative, contracts and raises and all the rest, and Martha proposed having a separate, committee to look at that, and I think it's actually a good idea for the same reason facilities, to have that. It's not going to be like it's going to be meeting every week. It might meet, twice a year, but it's going to be one person that's going to be in charge of not formulating the contracts or coming up, but making recommendations and suggestions. So I think that was the idea for that particular thing.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I would recommend Linda for that position if she's interested.
Are you declining the nomination?
I'm open to other nominations. I would fill the role if we feel that's a good fit, but I certainly would be very open to other nominations. Dave, do you have any interest in that role? No? Joel? Anything?
I could take that role. Wesley, would you have any interest in that? Or Sherry? Or
I'm tight with education in my other job, but
So what exactly are I don't know if we're talking about contracts for the entire school district. I don't know if just stepping in on this if I'm the best person.
I think it'd be administrative hires and
And other personnel matters that might
personnel,
arise.
right, things that come up. Yeah.
I don't see it as being a very time consuming. I mean,
I agree. I think it's mentioned that you might meet just a couple times a year. Most of our work in terms of the contract with teachers and staff has been ratified and certified. So particularly for this cycle.
We have 3 years until we go to teacher contract
right.
again.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, because that just happened recently, right?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wesley and I could make it a co-committee.
That might be nice to have,
Okay.
Okay.
a team.
An experienced hand on helping out.
Right.
you good with
Some
that?
background knowledge.
Right. I know it'd be hard to jump in.
I mean, if it's just purely management type stuff, then I'm fine with that. As long as it's not altering contracts and.
No.
And actually, we would refer to those things to our attorney,
Yeah.
but I think there's some things just around coming to some shared beliefs and vision and more discussion.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
We have consensus of the board?
Sure.
Yeah?
So there'll be a
Sounds
pair?
like two
So
co-chairs.
is it Wesley and Joel, is that what
Yeah.
we've decided?
Sure. Yes.
Yes, that's my understanding. Is that everyone else's understanding?
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, at any point, can these, because they're just, can committee chairs change or no? For 2 years? They're not like a 2-year.
I think through board agreement,
Yeah.
you could.
Yeah, I think they can be changed.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
because it's a new committee, if we need to streamline, I think we would be able
Yeah.
to.
Sure.
Or just.
Or if you want to jump in there with.
Yeah, yeah. I'm good.
Okay. All right, so the next item is the appointment of representatives and liaisons. And the first position is the PTA/PTO representative.
So that's the person that meets, we have a parent leadership team, and it's the presidents of the 5 PTAs, PTOs that meet monthly. That's a pretty regular meeting, so I know Linda has served in that capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to continue serving unless somebody else would like to. I mean,
One idea I had, and I'm not sure if it would work for people, is I did attend one of the meetings a couple months ago, and I thought it was really actually interesting and informative just to hear the perspectives directly from the PTO chairs. So another possibility, I'm sure Linda did a great job, and I'm sure she would continue, but another possibility would be for people to rotate through. So once every 6 months, you would attend a meeting. If people were interested. I mean, I think it was, sort of interesting. Or we could have Linda chair it, and then people could just come through,
Because we could always add a
voluntarily.
second board member.
Yeah.
I agree with Jeff that I learn a lot from that group. I think there's really valuable conversation. I know for me, and I would think for the board member there too, it's an opportunity to really hear directly from very engaged and involved parents. We always review the previous board agenda, so that's often a kind of a launch pad for conversation, and then just other
And we
key
usually have all
topics.
5 reps there, right?
Right, oftentimes there's like a co-president, so
Right.
sometimes it's 5
Sometimes it's
more, more than 5,
right,
yeah.
Right, because we do have a lot of co-president.
Yeah.
So I was actually gonna say that's something I wouldn't mind being part of in some form or fashion, whether leading or just attending it, just because
Sure.
I think that'd be a good way for me to get
Sure.
more of the community involvement
Great.
and everything, since my scope right now is pretty much limited to my direct contacts. So getting
Yeah.
all the schools involved and everything. So
And that's a great idea.
I can either do it with you, or if you're wanting to pass it off, try to.
I'm open to any and all suggestions, so, whatever the board feels.
I think it's been nice to have a regular board member, because I think the parents really have just appreciated that. So my thought might be Linda plus one other, and maybe the one other rotates.
That sounds good to me. I think that's good to give people the opportunity to occasionally drop in, and if they
Yeah.
can't do it, then that's fine too.
Right,
Yeah,
because
and
it is
also-
during the school day. I mean, we tend to meet at 9 o'clock in the morning on a weekday.
Okay.
We can adjust, we set the calendar a year in advance like we do with a lot of our meetings, but we can make adjustments.
Maybe the first few of those, and then
Yeah.
people could take turns after that, depending on people's availability.
And if availability is that, like, one of the meetings I don't attend, so the
Sure.
other, I would gladly do that too.
Do we have a consensus of the board?
Sounds like it.
Yes.
Okay. The next representative is for EdRed.
I'll jump in here.
In theory, I had volunteered for this, but the meeting that they have is generally on a Friday at 2 o'clock.
In
and
Park
it's
Ridge.
Up in Park Ridge. So this was more paying attention to the emails about legislation that was coming, whether or not it was viable legislation or not. If there's someone who actually wants to attend those meetings, that would probably be better than what I was doing, but I'd be willing to do a better job of communicating with the board about maybe a summary of what they are concerned about.
They tend to communicate well, I think, by email, so I think it's one of those where if you're not present at the meetings, I think you can still stay up to date, and I think it's, again, helpful to have a board member assigned to just, again, interpret from sort of both the board lens and superintendent lens.
Almost.
Is there anybody else who's interested?
I could trade off with Joel. If Joel, you want to do that, Joel? Maybe I can try to attend some of the meetings and we could collaborate on the legislation side if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's some interesting topics right now. I mean, maybe always, but,
There's a lot.
I think the conversation is about consolidation, potentially
Consolidation,
facility,
PE
money.
requirements,
Yeah.
money,
Yeah. Yeah.
legislative requirements
Pensions, yeah.
for any and all school-related things.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a consensus of the board?
Yep.
Okay. Next is REC, so that's Riverside Education Council.
So I meet with the Riverside Education Council about monthly, and we have not typically involved a board member in those conversations. We've talked about maybe not attending every meeting, but again, having a representative that periodically might attend those meetings. I think there might be value in that. So it's something we've had in name. I don't know if it automatically means that you're the person that is involved in negotiations next time around, but again, just building a rapport and communication with the Riverside Education Council.
I'd be willing to. Rich filled that role last time, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I knew somebody did.
But I'm also willing to, certainly, whatever.
No, you're fine.
All right, do we have a consensus of the board? Before she changes her mind? Okay. Next, we have the Behavioral Interventions Committee.
I'd be happy to do that. Pam Shaw does a great job keeping us updated and.
You meet once or twice a year?
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, so it's
It
not.
is.
yeah.
It is interesting though to see kind of what comes through the pipe and what they require for changes. So I thought that was really valuable. So, but she does a good job.
Sounds good.
It does. We have a consensus of the board.
Yes.
Okay, then we have the Technology Steering Committee.
I've done that last couple of years. I can do it again unless somebody else wants to take it.
Really?
Linda?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, David and
We kinda
Leanne both
joined before.
participate.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Let's see, I did commit today to the May 13th meeting. We'll have to see how the new workload
Yeah, I
adds up.
mean, we can still share it. I mean, that's fine, Dan. I just didn't know what.
I'm happy if you want to be the chairperson, and I can be the silent partner.
That sounds good. Sounds good.
As silent as I can be, not more days than others.
And then can I add two others? I mean, with the appointment of representative liaisons, I think I can do that, right? So we had left IASB off inadvertently. So again, we had assigned a liaison for the Illinois School Board Association. Again, I mean, everybody's open to attending those, any kind of meetings or information sessions that IASB might offer. So I don't know if it's critical to name a liaison, but that's something we had done in the past. Or we can, I mean, you're all members, right, of the Illinois School Board Association, so maybe it doesn't require a particular representative.
Well, I think, should we have a need arise, as we did, I think there was one matter in particular that definitely made us, that made that one meeting pretty interesting in wanting to have voice the board, vote the voice of the board. So I think it does make sense to have that as a designated person rather than drawing names out of a hat should the need arise.
I can do it again.
I had difficulty attending those based on when they happen, so I would, but I can't always go to those. That works.
Okay.
And then the other one I'll just bring up is Facilities Advisory Committee, because we just talked about that. So Joel, as the Facilities Committee Chair, would sit in on that, and then I would recommend that Linda continue for the continuity piece, so that would be 2 board members involved with that.
Yep. Works for me.
Yeah, we have consensus?
Yes.
Okay.
Read the minutes to see where the
Page
date-
2.
I'll scan this.
So next we have establishment of regular meeting dates, times, and places as a roll call vote. I move the Board of Education approve, not approve, the establishment of regular business meetings and dates, times, and locations as presented.
Second.
Move to approve them, yeah.
Move to approve them, okay. Do
So
we-
this keeps the Wednesday nights, the first and third Wednesdays.
Yep.
I just had a question. I know that in the past, the summer schedules has been sort of light, and I was just sort of noticing, I just didn't know if we wanted, because I'm looking like July 3rd, we have a meeting. Oh, that meeting's canceled, but I mean, we had one in August. Do we want to keep those meetings? Because I know because of the summers, we've canceled generally the committee of the whole.
We usually canceled in July, I think.
Right.
Because the staff also, there really weren't staff members here except for the administration, and there really wasn't much to present because they were kind of
Right.
in their own mode. So I think we always usually did a July break. But I think August is good to keep because we're starting to hear on what's happening in training, what happened over summer school and things like that. So,
Prepping for the year.
yeah.
I think we should keep them, because the July one is canceled on that, I think we should keep them, and if there's reason not to have it, then we would cancel them. It's probably easier than trying to reschedule.
I just wanted to ask that question. Because we've done in the past.
So do we need a vote? We have a roll call vote here.
You do.
So, Margie,
Ms.
please call the
Murphy?
roll.
I will. Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, the next is motion that the board continue to operate under present policies. It reads, no board action is required for this motion. This serves as a reminder that policies will remain in effect for the benefit of the student and school district regardless of the composition of the board. So no vote on that one. Next, we have authorization of signatories for board in addition to president and secretary. A roll call vote. So I move the Board of Education approve, not approve, the authorization of signatories, namely vice president for the board, in addition to the president and secretary, as presented.
So moved. Second.
Margie, please call the roll.
Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, and last we have authorization of signatories for impressed account and financial reports. A roll call vote. It reads, I move the Board of Education approve or not approve the following positions as having authorization as a signatory on the impressed fund account or checks, as well as financial reports sent to the school township treasurer and the Illinois State Board of Education, as presented, Superintendent, Director of Finance and Operations, and the Director of Teaching and Learning.
These appear to be the same as what we had before, is that correct, Martha?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so I think that's how we were doing.
Second.
Margie, please call the roll.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next, we have an acknowledgement of appreciation for Mr. Rich Regan. So, Rich, I understand you had something you'd like to say.
Sure. I accept your appreciation. I want to begin by thanking and welcoming Wesley. If you commit yourself to this board, Wesley, it's going to be very rewarding, and you're going to love every minute of it. You're surrounded by great people here. I do want to express my gratitude to Sherry and Linda for diving back into this thing, kind of asking for more. I think that what this definitely does is creates a balance on the board, and I'm grateful to you two for doing that. So I wrote down a few thoughts that I want to share with you guys here. As I consider my time on the board dating back to August 2014, I'm feeling immense gratitude for the opportunity to not only serve the community, but to serve alongside each of you. The dynamic that we have all worked towards, marked by mutual respect and student-centered decisions, does not naturally exist, but rather needs to be our goal and in the forefront of each and every board member's mind. I can't think of one occasion amongst the many issues and topics brought before this board where I questioned any of your individual motives. That is not to say that we did not have vigorous and passionate debate, as we certainly did. But it does mean that when we remain respectful of one another and we consistently ask ourselves, how is this decision going to help the kids in our district, we will always make progress. This book that I have here contains all of my notes from the first day that I was a board member. So I've been paging through this over the last few weeks here, just to remind myself of some things. So to begin with, staff interviews. When all of us were on the board back in 2015, we jumped right into staff interviews for interim superintendents, assistant superintendent of curriculum interviews, strategic planning committee, ISBE meetings, consultant interviews, committee meetings, tech steering committee, collective bargaining, finance committee, facility advisory committee, cow meetings, board meetings, and most importantly, prep for board meetings. Now, one may think that it's easy to get depressed when you add up all that time, but I'm actually grateful for every bit of it, as it gave me a deeper knowledge into each area and made me a more effective board member. That greater appreciation for the intricacies of every aspect of each specific topic is the most effective way to develop an informed opinion, and that's truly what it all comes down to. Now for the thank yous. Martha, thank you for the very detailed weekly emails. I found those extremely valuable, and I felt like as I was immersed in many other things, I could just read your email and know exactly what happened that week. Jim's not here, but somebody make him watch this video. Jim, thanks for being a quick learn on District 96. Thank you for being a fierce defender of the budget, and thank you for being a stickler on expenses. Margie, thank you for your ever-exacting and precise board book, meeting minutes, and many other things that you arrange for the board. Now, moving forward, I want to challenge this board in the following ways. Continue to prepare for board meetings by asking your questions before the meeting to develop your opinions. Continue to be respectful of one another's positions. Continue to be passionate for your own opinions. Continue to support our administration when they need supporting. Continue to question our administration regularly to ensure well-reasoned and logical decisions. Continue to challenge our administration to ensure the educational growth and academic improvement of this district. Continue to be respectful stewards of taxpayer dollars. And lastly, continue to make every one of your decisions student-centered. Each decision must benefit and improve education. Thank you all very much.
So we have some things for Rich.
Don't go yet.
Don't go yet.
Tackle him.
Yeah. The speech is not prepared, not elegant, but really, I just want to say thank you. So Rich was part of the board that hired me to be the superintendent here. I will be forever grateful for that. And I just want to thank him. I know all of you have a job that I know is thankless in many ways. We joke about how much you get paid as board members and the raise you get on $0 and then percentage of zero. So again, it's such important work. You said it best, you said it well, keeping your eye always on the needs of our students and the support and the challenge that this district needs to keep us moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Good luck, Rich.
To add a couple words to what Martha said, it's just everyone on the board realizes this, but I'm not sure that people in the public realize this, which is the everyone on the board, for the reasons Rich mentioned, everyone spends a lot of time doing board work because there's all the preparation, there's all the committees, there's all the meetings. But I wanted to say that Rich in particular has, I think, gone well above and beyond what the average board member did for a couple of specific reasons. One is he was integral in both of the last two collective bargaining agreements. And that's the committee that probably requires the most amount of time in terms of the number of meetings, the number of issues that come up. And he was a real leader in both of those. And in both cases, we came up with a much better agreement than we would have had he not been there. So that's one area. Another area is facilities advisory. He's worked with Linda on that committee, another very time-consuming and important committee. Done a fantastic job along with Linda, in clarifying some of the goals and some of the planning. And then the third area is he's been the chair of the Finance Committee, Finance Facilities, for the last 4 years, and he's done an incredibly good job in focusing the board's attention on the financial issues that we face as a district. And so for all those reasons, plus a bunch of other reasons, really owe him a debt of gratitude. The community does. And I say on a personal note, I didn't know Rich when I joined the board, 4 years ago, but I've really enjoyed working with him. He's very, enjoyable. It was a very enjoyable experience, and I'm sorry that he's leaving, but I wish him the best in his new endeavor at Triton. So.
I feel like I should clap again. Clapping.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to know Rich through bargaining because you're there so many hours the first time through, and I really didn't know him that well, and I think he always is well read, he asks good questions, and he's thoughtful, and I really like that he's really easy to work with, and we appreciate all those extra hours that you really didn't have to volunteer for, but you did. So taking off work and all kinds of sacrifices for the board, so thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
I first met Rich when we... All right, I'll see you on the train. All right. What's next then? The Riverside Education Council. Have any report?
No.
All right, and do we have a superintendent's report?
Nothing specific other than welcome to Wesley, and once again, a thank you to Rich. And also thank you to Linda and Sherry for, as Rich said, re-upping and being part of the board for 4 more years.
All right, we have a bullet point that says Board of Education. Are we a Board of Education?
I believe we are.
Okay, are we confirmed? Do we have a consensus of the board? All right, for future meeting dates, the May 1st, 2019 Committee of the Whole meeting is canceled. On May 15th, a regular business meeting at 7 p.m. The location is currently to be determined. The board will enter closed session at 6:30 p.m. if necessary and return to open session at 7 p.m. pending board decision on meeting dates and times.
And we made the decision on meeting dates and times and locations, so we're back here. Yeah.
Yes.
Regular board will stay at Hauser, and then we'll continue to rotate the committee of the whole meeting.
Yes, I think that works well.
Yeah.
I think the community understands that and
Yeah.
can follow better that they have a regular place for these regular meetings. So.
Okay, so May 15th then will be at Hauser. If there is nothing else, meeting is adjourned.
Nice, Dan.